Hey, Larry Farmer, how are you?
Can you hear us, Coach?
I can hear you now.
How you doing, Larry?
Great.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Loud and clear.
How's everything? How you doing?
ah, two coronavirus shots down, and
You're ready to go?
yeah, so I'm doing well.
Good.
Immunity
Good.
achievement unlocked.
Yes. I'm Bob Spino, and this is my friend Rob, and we're starting the show, and Larry Farmer is so gracious to come and try to help us out. In case anybody doesn't know, he was on the Walton gang. UCLA, he was a superstar with the rest of them, and you were 89-1. Best record ever, right?
Ever.
In college history.
Correct.
Right.
So
So,
I like to say that.
yeah, well.
The highest winning percentage ever for any player.
Hey, you know what? We're saying it because it's true. It's true. So what do you think about the tournament and all?
You know, I am so thrilled that we are able to have a tournament this year, you know, based on what happened last year. And then at various point in time during this year's season, you know, I didn't know whether or not the coronavirus would impact the tournament to the point where we would have teams, you know, have to skip out, not be able to play, not get enough of a body of work done to where you might be able to even make a determination as to who should rightly be in the tournament and who shouldn't. But,
Right.
you know, by hook or crook, it just all managed to keep going. And so there was just a little bit more involved this year in getting to this point. And I'm just thrilled that we had a tournament. It's turned out great.
Yeah, it really has. It's so wild. How about UCLA doing what they're doing, huh?
Oh, that's you know that's the best part of this whole thing. I mean,
Yeah.
who would have thought? You know, we
Yeah.
we hit a snag right there at the end of the Pac-12. You know, we lost our last 4 games, and you know, it looked like the kids were playing hard. They were trying, and we just couldn't get a break. And when we got in the tournament, that was the break we needed because they play great defense. And you know, some games we shoot it well, some games we don't. But they've given themselves a chance to win every game. And come tournament time, that's all you want.
Do you think they have a chance?
You always have a chance when it's just, you know, it's just one game. And I know they've got a huge mountain to climb in facing Gonzaga. And they're a huge underdog. But, you know, they've been an underdog all tournament long. And there might have only been the one game against the team from Texas where they were considerably favored. But every other game they played,
I think we might have lost
the underdog, and they've seemed to manage a way to slow the tempo down. And yeah, they've just done a good job.
Yeah, they've done a great job. It seems like they're very comfortable with each other now because they did have trouble. I mean, Smith blew his knee out, and you know, and they've had all kinds of problems, but they've seen to overcome it, and they're really playing hard on defense now. And I wondered where that was all year, you know, because I know Cronin loves playing D, and all of a sudden, on that Michigan State game in the second half, they really turned it up, and they've never looked back.
You know, it's all about buy-in, and a lot of young college kids, when they play, they want to play offense, and this is what they learned first. Yeah. And to play that defensive end of the floor, that's the huge sacrifice. That's where you really got to make that commitment and buy in. You know, that's the ugly part of the game. And when these kids, and you could see it was just like somebody hit the light switch. It wasn't that they weren't giving an effort, but they just weren't getting, I don't think they embraced the defensive end of the floor as much as they did the offensive end. And now they're winning games because of their defense. You look back at the Michigan game, we scored 51 points. You don't win a game in the NCAA tournament unless you play good defense. Yes.
Right. Or if you luck out and you maybe play in the 16, maybe then, even then you might not pull it out, you know. But that's yeah, right. but yeah.
And I'm not that I know of, thought UCLA had a chance against Michigan. And yes, they took control of that game. Well, they took control of the game and took care of business. They never let up.
They never did. And Michigan couldn't get a clean look for about 5 minutes. Everything every shot they took was contested, and they wound up getting an open one right toward the end of the game. And unfortunately, kid shot an air ball, made me happy, but that was probably the most open. They were all that second half, the last 5 minutes.
Right. I mean, Gonzaga is going to be hard, but you know what? Hey, you know what? Upsets happen. I mean, that's what this tournament's all about. So, so you know, you never know what's going to come down the pike, and you just got to play and play hard and hope for the best and do everything you can. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so tell me about you're on the Walton gang, right?
Correct. 2 years on the Walton gang and 1 year with Sidney Wicks and Curtis Rowe.
Ooh,
Steve
how good
Patterson.
was that? Right. Some people
Great
still
team.
call them the best team of all of them, but I don't know. That's awful tough with Kareem there.
Yeah, I was going to say there's that other fella that's probably the best of all time, and every team he was on was pretty good too.
Thank you. I'm glad you said best of all time because I still think him and Russell are the best. I love Michael Jordan. I really do. But no, sorry. Nobody can still catch this guy. He's still got the most points ever. So, yeah, he's pretty good. And they changed rules for him. You know what I mean? No dunking.
That's when you know a guy it transcends the game is when they start making rules to make the game fairer for the other 99.9% of the guys playing. You got to be pretty special.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's just like playing against little kids. I'm too big for you, so I'm going to make it easy. We'll just change things a little bit just to give you a chance. You're still going to lose, but you know. You know what I'm saying? But tell me about Walton Gang. That must have been fun, huh?
It really was. You know, I was 1 year ahead of school in school than Bill. So my sophomore year, I played with Ricks, Rowe, and Patterson. We lose one game that was in South Bend to Austin Carr. Austin Carr went for 46 points.
Notre Dame, that's right. That's right.
And they beat us. And that was the only game that we lost that year. So the following year, we are minus 4 starters. The only starter we had returning from that championship team was Henry Bibby.
Who we're going to get on, by the way. We want him on. He said he's going to come on.
Oh, good. Hankums. And we had 3 sophomores in Greg Lee, Bill Walton, and Jamal Wilkes. And then I started at that other forward position, and we really didn't know what we were about. And about 9-10 games into the season, we were scoring, I think in the first 10 games of the season, I think we scored over 100 7 times. And we beat one team by over 50 points. And people really started to take notice because we had a great defense. We were a fast breaking team. We pressed you. And, you know, in those days, you score over 100 points, 7 out of 10 games with no 3-point shots. You're getting up and down the floor.
Right.
And that was a fun team to play for. That team in 72, the average win margin was 30.3 points per game.
And you were scoring over 100 points. Was there a shot clock? There was no shot clock, right?
No, there was a shot clock.
No shot clock.
That's just
there wasn't.
You can't. There was. There was not.
There was not.
That's unfathomable.
Yes, and we got teams to speed up because a lot of teams felt, well, if you take the air out of the ball and you hold it and keep the score down, you have a chance to beat UCLA.
Right.
So we press. Coach Wooden always 2-2-1 press after every made basket. And if we could speed you up, make you take a quick shot, turn you over, those things would always lead to a fast break. And so there were a handful of teams that tried to hold it against us, but they were unsuccessful. And we went undefeated. And that 30.3 point per game win margin is still an NCAA record.
And it always will be, Coach.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What was the lowest margin of victory that year? Do you remember?
It might have been against Florida State in the championship.
Oh, they were tough.
Yeah, and you know they had a good team. They actually were one of the few teams that scored against our press and got us out of it. But I think that championship game might have been the closest game that we played all year. Maybe that game and maybe one up at Oregon. But everything else was, you know, it was pretty one-sided.
I got to tell you about this, and I talk about this all the time. At that time, I was like 12 years old because my brother is older than me. And my brother was a student at UCLA. And back then, there was no computer. There was no, you know, mass media. You basically had the newspaper. And you had the morning edition and the night edition. And we had to wait until the next day to see if you guys won because you played so late. If we had UCLA against, we had a little N, night. That's it. You know, but you guys were never in the news unless you lost because it wasn't news when you won. You were that great. That's how great that team was.
You know, it's amazing you say that, because, you know, we were on the other side of that, and Coach Wooden was very good about protecting us as much as he could, you know, to keep all of the outside distractions away from us. You know, every media outlet that was available at that time, you know, followed UCLA. But again, he just did a great job of minimizing the distractions. And Bob, there were literally times, because he never talked about winning. He never talked about the next opponent. And I remember getting interviewed by a newspaper guy one time, and I was a senior at UCLA. And after the interview was about 10 minutes into it, this writer looks at me, he says, "Larry, you don't know who you're playing this weekend, do you?" And I didn't. I had no idea, because that team had not been talked about all week. You know, we were preparing as we always had done. And I remember laughing, saying, "I don't know who we're playing, but I bet you they know who they're playing."
Absolutely.
Oh, and circled and starred and asked, yes, ready.
Absolutely.
Preparing for you of all teams.
Yeah.
But you know, it still comes down to, and I've said this with other people, and I used to play basketball a lot, and I kind of get it. It's just, it's not what they're going to do to you. It's what you're going to do to them. You know exactly what you're going to do going in. They're going to think, well, we're going to stop it this way. We're going to stop you that way. And you're just like, no, we're going to be out there like you're not even there, because we're going to just run practice with you guys. And that's the kind of way you guys played. You guys won all the time. Like, there wasn't even a fear when I used to watch you guys. You won all the time, you know?
Some of our fans, it's awful to say this, but some of our fans started calling the NCAA tournament the Bruin Invitational.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right.
Understandably so.
I mean, that's right. Who's coming this year? That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but it's all consistent with winning, and how you know exactly what you want to do and what you're going to do, and you practice it and you get it down, and it's almost like clockwork.
Yeah.
No one could really, and nobody has a clue. They don't know how to stop it. You know, and then you had Bill, who was amazing, and Wicks and Rowe were amazing. Wow.
If you had come to one of our, yes, yeah, and if you had come to any of our practices on any of those teams, you would have been bored to tears, because we did the same drills every game, and
over again.
Simple drills emphasizing fundamentals. Yes,
and that was all Coach Wooden. How great was he, huh?
Of the best. Kept the game simple. He was demanding of us, but he was equally as demanding of him.
It's his internet.
You always knew what your role was. He was very clear about what you needed to do in order to help the team be successful. So he never brought up things that maybe you messed up on in the past. He was always a forward-looking coach. He was more willing to give confidence and praise than he was to belittle you. So it just made for a very positive practice, made for a very positive locker room. And we took that out on the floor with us. So you get really good players that play fundamentally sound and play as a team. You don't make a lot of mistakes. Well, that's going to help that win column get bigger. And that's what happened.
And it sure did with you guys, didn't it?
Yeah. And then I saw that you graduated from UCLA, finished your time there, and then immediately you're coaching with legends Gene Bartow, Gary Cunningham, and Larry Brown. What was that like?
You know, it was great for me as a young guy learning how to coach basketball. I'd only been a player, and I didn't start playing basketball until I was in the 9th grade. So I was constantly playing catch up and learning the game. You know, Gene Bartow was a great coach. He followed Coach Wooden, probably had, as you look back over the number of coaches that have followed Coach Wooden and coached at UCLA, probably had the most difficult job.
That's
Coach Bartow,
right.
Yeah. He went 52-9 in 2 years, 52 wins and 9.
Right.
And
That's amazing.
Yeah. And 2 of those losses were to the 1975 Indiana team, Bobby Knight's team.
Bobby Knight's team.
When Buckner, Scott May, Kent Benson,
Right.
lost to them twice out of those 9 games. And because he followed Coach Wooden, it was really unfair the way he was treated.
Absolutely.
It was really unfair.
I mean, that's a contract extension with a big buyout nowadays.
Nowadays, you go 52-9 and get to the Final Four. They build a statue.
Statue,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. It's right, man. That's right. Now, what about Coach Brown? You work with him too. What was he like?
Coach Brown was, I call him the coolest guy that ever coached at UCLA. He had that NBA swag to him,
and he proved it too.
And he
won
loved
in the NBA. Yeah.
Yes, he won at every level that he's ever been at.
That's
I think he's the only coach, to my knowledge, that won an NCAA championship and an NBA championship.
That's exactly right.
That's correct.
That is correct. And not only that, he even won. I want to say he was in. I read about it because we're gonna try to have him on, and we're supposed to have him on, but we kind of miscommunicated, and we're gonna try to get him on again. He won in a I don't know if it was a European League, I believe, or something like that. He was on the team that won it. He was a great player.
And a gold medal, I believe, in the Olympics.
And a gold medal.
An Olympic guy.
Being around 64,
yeah. Being around Coach Brown was like it was like being around an NBA coach. And even though we were at the collegiate level, and you've got guys going to class, and you got study hall, you got tutoring, you got all of those things that go along with college basketball. There weren't many times, as I remember in the office, where basketball wasn't front and center when it came to something. Mm-hmm. And that was really fun. That was a different experience for me. And so, and Gary Cunningham, who had been on Coach Wooden's staff as an assistant, along with Denny Crum.
Right. I was going to ask you about him.
Yeah, he was the head coach in between Coach Bartow and Coach Brown. But I learned something from each one of those guys. And each one was only there for 2 years following Coach Wooden.
Gary had a good record too, right?
He had a tremendous record, won the league 2 years in a row.
Right.
And
not good enough.
I think, yeah. Well, he left on his own, but there was certainly a lot of pressure on him to win. And he renewed a lot of the hope and expectation about UCLA because he was a Coach Wooden guy and a Coach Wooden disciple.
What about Denny Crum? He was a great guy too. He's a good coach.
Oh, too. Denny recruited me. He was the first person that I heard from UCLA when I grew up in Colorado. Okay. And I'll never forget getting that very first call from UCLA. I pick up the phone at home, and on those days, you didn't have cell phones.
You didn't. The only way I knew it was supper time, my mom would come and say, "Bob, time to eat." That was it.
We had the phone that mounted on the wall that had like the 15-foot cord on it.
Yeah.
The 15-foot cord.
Yeah, you're talking, watching TV in the other room at the same time.
Yeah, that way you have some privacy. And that phone rang, and I was expecting his call because he had called my high school and said that they were going to give me a call that afternoon. And when I picked up the phone, he said, "Larry, this is Coach Crum, UCLA." He said, "I understand you have an interest in coming here to play." I said, "Yes, I do, Coach." Coach Crum said, "Do you think you're good enough?" And it took me about 3 seconds to say yes, but then I thought about it after I hung up. I said, "I don't know. I hope I am." But
wow. Well, you sure were.
Great coach.
No doubt about it.
And a good friend.
Yeah, and he was great at Louisville. He was very successful there. And I mean, I probably think he probably would have liked to have taken Wooden's place, but Coach just stayed around longer. So, and he got that opportunity.
And then Coach Crum got a great deal at Louisville. And, my understanding, and this is back in the old days before there were all these huge buyouts, that they have now. But my understanding was that the alumni at Louisville offered
it's okay. It's
like $1 million as a bonus if he stayed at Louisville. Did I just break up?
Yeah, you broke up a little bit, but it's okay. We can still hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, you on hotel Wi-Fi, Coach?
I'm at home, but yeah.
Home Wi-Fi.
That's even
no worries. No worries. No worries at all.
That's okay.
We got most of that. So what is it like? I mean, you even coached UCLA to a conference championship your second year. What's it like at the helm of a blue blood program like that?
It was great for me. One, because I played at UCLA, and I played obviously during one of the best periods of time that the school ever experienced. And so probably unlike the other coaches, with the exception of Gary Cunningham, I knew what to expect as far as what the expectations were going to be. So I wasn't caught off guard. It was a privilege. I was 30 years old when I got the head coaching job at UCLA. And, I was inexperienced when you look at how long I had been coaching, but I probably was as well prepared for UCLA and coaching that school as I would have been for any other school or anybody else. Because when you turn over 3 coaches in a span of 6 years, you probably want to get somebody in there that kind of knows the nooks and crannies of the program. So they're not blindsided by a lot of the expectation that goes along with the job. So, at 30, I was just young and crazy enough to believe I could do it. And it was a great opportunity. It was an opportunity of a lifetime. And I would certainly, if I had it all to do over again, I'd do it exactly the same way.
That's awesome. That really is awesome. You were a star in Colorado too, right? When you were young.
Grew up in Colorado and played my high school basketball there for Manual High School. Manual is in the state of Colorado and in the city of Denver. Manual's basketball reputation was similar to UCLA's. Every year they turned out really good teams. Every year players got recruited and scholarships to college. And about 4 years ago, because of my playing back at Manual, I got put in the Colorado High School Hall of Fame.
You're in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
that was a huge honor. I was very proud of that.
And you
now
should.
The air is thin, though, right? Did that give you an advantage when you played the lower elevations?
Absolutely. I would go home to Colorado, and it's a mile above sea level, and I would train in the summer. I did that before my freshman year and my sophomore year and my junior year. And when I would go back to UCLA and then start to train at sea level, felt like I could run all day. Yeah. It was really an advantage. But when you go to Colorado, you were.
But in reverse, yeah, right.
Yes.
You know what? I did work at ESPN for a little bit, and I went to broadcasting school. And at the time, I asked Bill Walton, because so many people in the NBA, if he can try to help me out. And he sent me this crazy text. He sends the most the universe is on your side. The sun is shining. It's raining outside. What's he talking about? And he puts BW at the end. It is the funniest thing. The stuff he comes out with is unbelievable. He makes you laugh. You know what I'm saying? Tony just sent him something to try to come on, and he sent him something, peace, love, I'm like, I'm just, and then he does the shows like, the last time I was on Mars, it was amazing. I'm just like, really?
So we'll see you Tuesday, Bill.
Yes. But he must have been, he was how great. He was I don't remember Jabbar all that much, a little bit in college, but Walton was the best that I remember as a college center ever. That guy was just, there's been nobody better. I'm sorry. Nobody.
And the thing that made Bill such a great player, he was 6'11" and fundamentally sound. But his skill set, if Bill had been, and I've said this before, if Bill had been a 6'2" guard, or if Bill had been a 6'7" forward, because of his skill set and then his intellect, because he had a very smart basketball mind.
Yeah,
he would have been a really good player regardless of his size. He was just that gifted. And because he was 6'11", with that skill set, he could pass, he could dribble, he could shoot. It just made him all the more explosive. And then he had great timing. He was agile. He was quick off his feet, which made him one of the best shot blockers I've ever seen. And if he didn't block your shot, he could intimidate you and make you change your shot.
Make you miss, right.
And if you missed against the 2 teams that I played on with Bill, it was an instant fast break.
Yeah, it was. You guys used to be off and running.
Off and running. He had the best outlet pass. He would be in the air and he would have both hands on the ball, fundamentally sound again. He'd rebound with two hands. And before he would pull that ball in his chest, his head would start to look up the floor. Now he's still in the air. And as his head turned to look up the floor, he would spot those guards on his way down. So by the time he landed, that ball was gone. Right. And the defense is on its heels and we're already in transition. It was fun.
You know what? He did that with the Celtics too when he was a sixth man in '86. I think that was the best team ever for one season. They could have gave Jordan's team a run, because they played above the rim and they were great in every position. And Jordan couldn't beat them that year. The Celtics beat them 3-0. People forget that. Yeah. But Bill was amazing that year. He was just whenever he was healthy. His problem was his health. He couldn't stay healthy. Was.
And, even at UCLA, when Bill was there, and again, I wasn't there Bill's senior year, but his sophomore and junior year, Bill had a routine that he had to go through practice. He would hot knees before practice, his body loose. And then after practice, he would go and sit in the JV locker room and he would ice his knees down. So, in terms of having to take care of his body when he was still, a sophomore and junior in college, he already had some issues, that he had to address because of the toll on his body. And then my senior year, which was Bill's junior year, Coach Wooden would give him Mondays off. So we would play Friday, Saturdays. In those days, the games were always back to back. Right, Saturday. Coach Wooden Monday. But in addition, give him 2 days for his body to recuperate. And we were only playing 30 games. So now you factor in the wear and tear of an NBA season in 82 games, you could see why his body, eventually became the thing that kept him from, being one of the great. He's still one of the greatest of all times.
You got that right.
He would have been, his career would have proven that to a lot of people that never really got to know how great he was.
And you know what? The 2 years he was really, really healthy in the NBA, they won titles both times, one in Portland and one in Boston. So there you go.
There you go.
There you go. And I got a question. I want to ask you about Jamal Wilkes because he's always the forgotten man, but boy, was he great.
Yes. Smooth as Silk Wilkes.
That's exactly.
That's a great name.
Oh, they called him Silk.
Smooth as Silk Wilkes.
You know what?
Love it.
My brother ran into him at a high school basketball game one time, and I believe his son was playing, and he said, "Tony, I never get any respect. I'm always the other guy. I never get no respect. I played at UCLA. I'm behind Bill. I go to the NBA. I'm behind Jabbar. But you know what? People forget that night when Magic scored those 42 points against Philly. There was another guy on that team that scored 38 quietly.
Yeah,
and it was him.
And who gives him the most credit for that game is Julius Erving.
Yeah, right.
I heard Julius talk about that, and he says, and Julius Erving said, yeah, everybody talks about Magic. He said, but the guy that really killed us was Jamal Wilkes.
Yeah, and they gave Magic the MVP. And let's be real, if Jabbar didn't get hurt in the game before, he'd have gotten it because he was beating the daylights out of them, basically.
Yeah.
They had no center. They had everything but a center.
Yeah. But playing with Jamal, Jamal, I like to tell this story. Jamal and I were roommates on the road at UCLA. Okay. And even when we played home games, Coach Wooden had us stay at a hotel the night before games. But he was my roommate. And before games, I was always nervous. And we stayed at the Bel Air Sands Hotel, which is right by Sunset Boulevard in the 405. So literally, we would get on the bus and it was a 8-minute ride to get from the hotel to Pauley Pavilion. And the team would load up on the bus, before a game at night. And Jamal was so relaxed. All of us are nervous, hey, we got this big game coming. And Jamal would get on the bus, fall asleep. And, you'd have to wake Jamal up because he would sleep from the hotel over to the gym. He was just that relaxed. And then he'd get in the game and, scored 20 points, missed
Right. And he did it all relaxed. Like you never even knew he beat you. It's almost like
No.
he was silent. He was a silent assassin. He was amazing.
Yeah, he really was. He's a great teammate. Great team.
Yeah. Yeah. You that was a legendary team you played on, I got to tell you.
Yeah, who are some of the other unsung heroes over the years, Coach? The ones that probably deserve the accolades, but just fell under the radar for whatever reason.
Wow, so many guys come to mind. One of the guys that first just jumps out to me was Mike Sanders.
Mike,
Mike
number 11,
great player at UCLA.
Yeah, he was.
Played both the forward position and the center position. He was kind of a utility guy, wound up being in the NBA for a number of years, but always just kind of flew under the radar.
He was wasn't he big in the 1980 run? Yeah, he was.
Huge.
Huge.
Mike was our leading scorer.
Yeah.
But 6'6", DeRidder, Louisiana, Southern charm, really quiet, but he probably, for as much as he contributed, probably gets remembered and talked about the least.
I remember him.
Yeah,
I do. Number 11. He was number 11. That's right.
Terrific player.
Yes, he was. But if Kiki only dunked, why didn't he? Why didn't he dunk?
We build that lead, and it was just. We've got Louisville beat, and we play great defense. That defensive possession, I know exactly the play you're talking about.
Yeah.
And we turn them over, and I think we were up 6 with a chance to go up 8.
8.
And
maybe 9 because he got fouled. Let's be honest.
But Kiki started down the floor, and Jerry East from Louisville ran in front of him, and it made Kiki screw up his steps, 1-2 into his layup.
Right.
And so when he went up to score, instead of concentrating on the rim, he kind of looked down, and when he looked back up, he left it short. And then it was either the next possession or the one that followed. Dale Griffith hit a jump shot.
Yeah,
and that changed the whole momentum of the game.
It changed the whole momentum. We had them beat. We would have won that title. I'm still mad about that.
Is that the big what might have been moment for you, Coach? What might have been? What should have been?
That is one of them. And this year's UCLA team is very similar to that 1980 team with Larry Brown.
Yes.
Because we didn't even know that we were getting in the NCAA tournament until the selection show, because we finished 4th in the league, and we didn't know. We told our guys after we finished our regular season at Cal and Stanford, and we're in the locker room at Cal, and Coach Brown tells the players, he goes, we may or may not be practicing on Monday, and why don't we just have a team meeting, and then we'll know what we're doing then. So we didn't know. And we get in the tournament, and we have a play-in game. We had to play, I believe it was Old Dominion. And the winner of that game was then going to play DePaul. And DePaul was ranked the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, they were.
Mark Aguirre.
Mark Aguirre, yep.
Mm-hmm.
They were stacked, and they had beaten us by 20 at Pauley earlier in the year.
Wow.
And so we win this play-in game, and then we play the number 1 team in the country, and we beat them. And that led to that run.
That's it.
And we got all the way to the championship game before, Louisville beat us. But I always felt if we were going to lose that game, who better to lose to than Denny Crum?
Right. Because he's such a great guy.
It's almost like you're losing
to a family member. Right. A family member, right. But, so what are you doing now, Coach? Are you just retired or?
Retired, and Bob, I'm writing a book.
Nice.
I'm writing a book about
Dale Brown wants my brother to write one, and he won't do it. And Coach asked him when my brother was with Coach to write one. He goes, "Yes, Coach," and he still hasn't done it. And Dale was on a week ago. He goes, "You make sure you tell him to do it." I'll tell him.
Bob, Tony and I talked about me writing this book a year ago, and I told Tony, I said, "I'm going to do it," and he was partly responsible for me getting off the schneid and doing it. And he and I have gone back and forth. I said, "Tony, you got to write a book. Tony, you got to write a book."
Everybody's been telling him. I told him on the phone, I go, "It's about time everybody knows who you are." You've done so much. He's done more sometimes than some of the other players because he's had the chance to do it. I mean, like he was talking about Kenny Rogers. He used to hang around with Kenny Rogers at the house in Georgia.
The stories that he has.
I know.
It's the who's who of sport and the entertainment world. And not to mention the time that he spent the last, 10, 12 years with Coach Wooden.
I used to call him every night there.
Yeah. I will forever be grateful for how well he took care of Coach. But I retired a couple of years ago, and I'm in the finishing stages of writing this book about how I got to UCLA and then going from playing and being 89-1 to being the head coach there at age 30.
Then we're going to promote the book. Everybody buy Larry Farmer's book.
You know how to use Google, folks. Search his name, get the book.
Get the book.
It's not finished yet, but we're close. Yeah. Yep. We're close.
And my brother, he's not even started. He keeps pulling back, and I wish he wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, he convinced me to do this, and I love him. And every time we talk about it, he'll say, "Hey, Larry, how's your book coming?" "Yeah, it's coming fine. Tony, how's yours coming?"
Nice.
I'm still looking for the pencil. I can't find it. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Coach,
man.
what's your current opinion on the state of the game, the state of the game in its current form?
Right.
That I love basketball, and let me just start by saying that. And the game, like all things, has evolved, and there are some aspects of the game that I really like, and there are some.
Did we lose him, Rob?
Yeah, it's his internet connection, but he's coming back.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody just tried to call me.
Oh, okay. That's why. Okay.
Interference, 10-yard penalty.
Yep.
Yeah. The game has evolved. And I remember when I worked for Don Nelson, this would have been back in 1991. I worked for Don Nelson and the Warriors.
So did my brother.
He worked for him at Milwaukee. I worked for him at Golden State.
Right.
And he had Mitch Richmond, Tim Hardaway, and Chris Mullin. So ran motion. We spread the court. We did a lot of different things. The game has now evolved into just pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll. And that, to me, now players have become more role specific. A lot of the big guys are more versatile, but the game has just changed. So I guess my long answer is I still love the game, but it's changed, and I don't know if I enjoy it as much now as I used to.
Yeah.
The rules have changed. Guys can carry the ball now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that drives me nuts to watch them dribble.
Does it bother you a little bit? Does it bother you a little bit that they're taking too many threes, maybe?
And that's the other thing. We were taught to play the game from the inside out.
Yes, sir.
And I know now there are very few true centers, but games are still won. A lot of these games in these current playoffs have been won in the mid-range. They haven't been won from three. You look at some of the games UCLA has won in this stretch.
That's right.
A lot of their points have come from that mid-range. And to me, it's still the highest percentage shot when you need a basket. If you can't get a layup, it's
that's what I'm saying.
shot.
See, yes. Mitchell, I just had Mitchell Butler on earlier today, and he kind of disagreed. He's like, well, I go, Mitchell. I go, I watched Michigan the other night, and at the first half, there were 3 of 15 from three. But if you all of a sudden you're taking shots inside, you're making 10 out of 15, maybe even 12 out of 15 because the percentage goes up. And somehow Mitchell didn't get that. I'm just like, okay, Mitch, I just let him go. I was like, sure, whatever. But I'm sorry. I don't believe in it. I played basketball all my life when I was a kid. I don't believe it.
And in a close game where every possession matters and you can't have an empty trip, shot selection and high percentage shots, to me, then become a factor. And if you can't get a layup, hey, if we're sitting there watching the game and we say, we got to score this trip down, if you got to score, you want to lay up, you want to shoot free throws, or you want something mid-range because you want the easiest possible attempt at the basket.
Exactly.
And it's changed the game. And I appreciate the three, but we're living and dying with it. In the old days, remember, they used to say, live by the jump.
Live by the three, die by the three. Right. Now it's live by the three. And you know what? When it first came in the NBA, because it came from the ABA, the 3-point line, right?
Yes.
They pretty much had it because the players were all skilled and knew how to play, when it first got in. So they would only use it like in case of fire, break glass, the little thing on the wall, and they knew when to use it, but they didn't misuse it. Now they're misusing it. You see?
Right.
What, I got a question. What would Coach Wooden do to you guys if you had a 5-on-1 and three of you pulled up from three on the fast break? What would he do? There's your seat at the end. Don't get up again until I tell you. Am I right?
I would, that would be one of the things I would be curious to have talked to him about. Would have been how might he utilize the three. But I do know this, Bob. Mm-hmm. Guys like Henry Bibby, Shackelford would have been allowed when they were open. But guys like me who thought they could shoot it would never have been able to shoot it, would never have been allowed. It would never have been misused with the team that he was coaching had the 3-point shot been in basketball back then.
He would have found a way to implement it the right way. There's no doubt about that.
I agree. Totally agree.
And because he's that kind of smart, if you figure it out. But you know what? I listened to an interview, and James Worthy did the interview with Jerry West. And Jerry came on and went, all these guys today that think they're experts and good, there's no such thing as an expert. Right. And this is what he said. He goes, and what was the rule when you were playing for me? That's what Jerry asked. He goes, right. And Worthy went, well, coach, none of us were allowed to take a 3-point shot except Byron Scott. He was the only one. Nobody else was allowed. And I'm like, yeah. And that's why they won 5 times. And you had to be good to beat those Celtic teams because they were great.
Yeah. It would not have been misused.
It would not have been misused.
It always went to getting the highest percentage shot each possession. And that's what you work for.
Right. Rick Barry said it once when he was in the league. I will take every single shot unless somebody on my team has a better one. Then I'll give it to him. That's it. It's that simple. Basketball's still the same. They're trying to change it. And if it's perfect, why would you change it?
It goes back to my original feeling. The game has changed. I don't know if all of the changes have been for the better. Guys are more athletic and they certainly do some spectacular things on the floor. I do enjoy, like, I won't watch an NBA game until they get to the playoffs. And then I think that's when the teams really start, every win and loss matters. And I get more of that, maybe more of that collegiate enthusiasm, which I think when you have to play, 82 games, I think that's missing. But when you get to the playoffs in the NBA, that's when I think it takes on a different look and a different feel. And that's when I'll watch the NBA. But I rarely, when Michael Jordan played, I would always try to catch his games.
Oh yeah, me too. He was pretty good, that guy. Yeah, he really was. We actually did. I actually met him. Believe it. I'll tell you a funny story about that. UCLA had a game in North Carolina. The 3rd year in the league, Jordan was in the NBA. He broke his foot. Okay. And I called my brother and I go, Tony, I want to come down to see the game. I have a feeling Jordan's going to be at this game. We were supposed to open the new Dean Dome, but it wasn't ready yet. So we played the last game in the old arena, And so what ended up happening was my brother is, I'm sitting there going, where's my ticket the night before the game? We had a great weekend. I met Dean Smith, the whole thing. And it was amazing. So I'm only in my 20s, So my brother goes, I don't have a ticket. I go, what do you mean you don't have a ticket? He goes, don't worry about it. Right. And he comes in the room with a UCLA basketball jersey. He goes, suit up. I got permission for you to sit on the bench. I go, you did what? And Reggie Miller was on the bench with Jack Haley. And Jack and I became great friends, by the way. So I'm
That's
sitting
unbelievable.
there. Yeah, it is unbelievable. And Michael Jordan, of all things, was at the game and sitting on the North Carolina bench. So before the game, somebody thought I was a player. And So I walk, nobody can stop me. I was, young, and I walk up and I say, Mr. Jordan, it's very nice to meet you. And we start talking for a while. And I go, how's your foot? And he goes, oh, I'll be better than ever. I go, you sure it's not going to hurt you in any way? He goes, oh, believe me, I'll be great. You'll see. And boy, he sure was, And so I go, may I have your autograph? Because I had these two programs, one for me and one for my younger brother. And he signs them. And I walk away. Now listen to this. He turns around. He goes, come here for a second, man. I go, yeah, Mike, what's up? He goes, I just want to say good luck in your basketball career to me. And I just looked at him and I went, no, good luck in your basketball career. And he just looked and he started laughing. He goes, thanks a lot.
No, you
man.
should just been like, I got this. Don't worry about it.
No. I was too humble. I just didn't want to do it. But the funny thing was I got to suit up before the game and I was on the team bus. And when they let the team out, the players, I ran with them like I was a player all the way to the front door. And everybody's going, UCLA. And they give me a high five. I go, this is great. This is great. But
that is great.
That is a true story.
That's a great story.
Yeah. And my friends are like back home. I was sitting on the bench and they're watching the game at home and they're like, as it's going down, they could see me and I'm waving in the camera. They're going, oh no, it can't be him. But that is true. That is funny.
Will there ever be another dynasty like UCLA, Coach? Or is that just a moment in history?
Moment in history.
I agree with that.
Winning 7 championships in a row, that will never happen. 7. Winning 10 championships in 12 years, that will never happen. Winning 88 college games in a row, that will never happen. So I think that was just a unique period of time that I don't think anybody will ever come close to duplicating that. It's just amazing.
I totally agree. And freshmen weren't allowed to play. Am I right?
Freshmen were ineligible, and
they had their own team.
They didn't become eligible until 1974, 3 or 4. Marcus Johnson's first year at UCLA, I believe, was when freshmen became eligible. And so Coach Wooden only had to deal with that, I think, the last 2 years of his coaching. And that also changed it. And now guys, are going pro. Just think back of how many guys at UCLA could have been one and dones. Certainly Bill could have.
Green. Oh, yeah, they would have. Yeah, they would have.
And that would have also impacted the dynasty.
Well, with the 7 years in a row, if you think about it, because, Kareem couldn't play his freshman year. Do you think maybe they would have won in 66 and he would have won like 10 in a row? Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we were number one. You know what the funny part? My brother tells me this story all the time. We were number one in the country, and then we had a lot of injuries hit in 66, the year Texas Western won. And but that year when we were still number one before the injuries hit, we played the freshmen. And the freshmen with Jabbar roped us. They beat us by like 30, and he had like 40.
Yeah.
And so the next day in the paper, it said UCLA, number one in the country, number 2 in the school. Number 2 in the school. That's a true story.
And Coach Wooden, that was the annual freshman varsity game.
Yeah.
Because that used to give the UCLA fans a chance to see the new freshmen. And, obviously at UCLA, the varsity would beat up on the freshman team. Well, that year with Lucius Allen and Kareem, the freshman team beat the varsity. And that was the last year that they ever had the freshman varsity game.
They never let them play it again.
It became the inter squad game.
You guys are too good. Yeah.
Hey, Bob, I've got to run.
Uh-huh.
My phone is just absolutely blowing up, but you got to get me on.
Oh, you're open invite anytime, Coach. Open invite anytime.
We absolutely want you back. And if talk to anybody to come on this show. We're trying to build it up. And we would love to have you and all the stars to come on. And come back on when your book comes out, because we want to do it.
Definitely.
We'll see if I can get my brother on and get that book going.
Yeah. You got it.
Thank you, Larry.
I'm pulling. Well, folks, another guest. And another one in the books. We had a little bit of internet troubles on Coach's end, but that happens from time to time. So, Bob, signing off. Stay tuned, folks. Like and subscribe.
It's a big day. UCLA's playing tonight, and
yeah, a lot of build up. I'm glad they're playing the nightcap. I think they're playing the nightcap, right?
They're playing the nightcap. Yes.
Good. All right, folks. Signing off. Stay tuned. Like and subscribe again. This is Rob signing off at the Sports Show with Bob Spino.